Tomorrow, June 14th, and this Thursday, June 16th, the Winnipeg Chamber Music Society returns to the concert stage with their annual mini chamber music festival that they call Mozart and More. Both concerts take place at the Muriel Richardson Auditorium at the Winnipeg Art Gallery and will feature chamber music of Mozart, Schubert, Schumann, and Khachaturian. And joining me here over Zoom, I am joined by the pianist for the Winnipeg Chamber Music Society, David Moroz, who will be performing on both nights. Hey, David, it's great to see you again.
Terrific to see you, Chris.
Mhm. I actually want to start out the I actually I actually want to start out the interview by looking ahead. It seems that things have returned to more or less normalcy. The Winnipeg Chamber Music Society is back at the art gallery, and we are doing bona fide in-person concerts. I know over the past 2 years, the WCMS season has been somewhat hijacked because of COVID. Does this mean that for 2022 and 2023, we're going to have a full on Winnipeg Chamber Music Society season starting in the fall?
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're planning. The dates haven't been completely set, although our first concert is scheduled for Friday, September 19th, and there's a lock on that date. But after that, things are not quite so certain. But of course, we'll have them organized. We'll have a couple of concerts before Christmas, a couple after Christmas, and then our Mozart and More Festival next June.
Amazing, amazing. So tomorrow and Thursday night, the music of Mozart is going to be front and center. But one of the pieces that you and your wife are going to be playing is Schubert's Grand Duo for violin and piano. Your wife being Gwen Hobig, the concertmaster of our Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. This morning, I was listening to this piece when I was prepping for the interview. It's really beautiful and lyrical, and there's this sort of hints of Beethoven. I'm thinking here in particular of the second movement scherzo and the finale. Why did you and Gwen choose to perform this piece?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I was not quite familiar with this work. This is a duo that's very well known among violinists, particularly. And Gwen, about a month ago, asked me if I'd play it with her. And I said, of course. And I got to know the piece by listening to it a couple of times on YouTube or whatever. And of course, we had the score. And it's a fabulous piece. I mean, Schubert wrote, I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 pieces.
Yeah.
And only a half dozen for the combination of piano and violin. So I was a little bit embarrassed that I didn't know this piece better than I did, but now I do, and it is absolutely beautiful. As you said, it's very lyrical. I found out while doing my own research for this piece is that it used to be a favorite of Rachmaninoff and Chrysler when they played duos together. And there's a recording out there of it, which I'm sure is very different from what you'd hear nowadays.
Right.
But that was an interesting little sideline when I was looking up information about this piece.
And there's these wonderful cross rhythms. I'm thinking here again of the second movement between the violin and piano, which is really, really great
Yeah.
in that grand duo. Mm-hmm. One of the other pieces on the program that I'm really interested about is this Khachaturian trio for saxophone, violin, and piano. Is this a transcription of the clarinet trio that he wrote?
This is, in fact, the transcription of the clarinet trio that he wrote. Actually, no transcription is published, as far as we can tell. And our saxophonist, Alan Harrington, has spent the past several weeks making a beautiful transcription of the clarinet part for him to play on saxophone.
Ha, amazing.
And I'm sure you know the piece very well, being a clarinetist. And,
Yeah.
there is something actually very appropriate for the sound of it on the saxophone.
Yeah. And is he playing it on alto saxophone? I'm just thinking about the register.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the register of the clarinet and as opposed to soprano or alto saxophone. I love Khachaturian's music, and one of the things I love about it is it's not always major and minor. There's very much some modal writing, possibly because of his Armenian background. What's the piano writing like in this trio for you?
Well, I mean, it's a very exotic piece, For me, the first movement sounds very much like what in my imagination would be some kind of a jazz club in Central Europe in the 1930s. Everything is just a little bit smoky and a little
Yeah.
bit exotic. Evidently, this piece actually had a premiere in Paris in the 30s. Apparently, Prokofiev was so impressed with this piece that he arranged for a performance of it in Paris. And I can imagine the people in Paris going absolutely crazy for it because it's wild and
Yeah.
full. It's very ethnic and very exotic. And I mean, we're really enjoying working on it.
And there's these wonderful gestures in the piano, like these sort of um, I don't want to say scalar because they're not always diatonic scales, but they're just sort of these passages of like septuplets and sixes in the right hand that is just
Well,
fantastic.
it's all very, very improvisatory, you know? At the
Mm.
beginning of the piece, I feel like I'm laying down a beat for these two guys that are going to have a little improvisation challenge, you know? And one of them takes the lead, and then the other one gets a turn, and then it gets a little more involved, and it goes back and forth like that. And there's just something very atmospheric about it and wonderful.
Amazing. It's going to be great. Especially, I love it. It's going to be great to hear it on saxophone for sure. On Thursday nights, you're performing the Mozart Piano Trio in B flat K502. When I saw the program, I had a little chuckle because I was chatting with the Norwegian pianist Leif Ove Ansnes, name drop, a couple months ago, and he recorded that piano trio on his latest album, Mozart Momentum 1786. And so I went back to my conversation with him, and he describes this piano trio as having this wonderful sense of equality between all three instruments. Is that what you would say about this piano trio, this K502?
Well, I think that's a very accurate assessment. You know, there's only a half dozen Mozart piano trios.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but this one I think is my favorite. You know,
Why?
maybe it is that equality that you mentioned. I think it's also a very imaginative piece harmonically. Um, but you know, the second movement, the slow movement in the middle, is particularly beautiful. And you know, I research all these pieces a fair bit because I chat a little bit before the concert just to let the audience know. It's like verbal program notes, you know, to let
Mhm.
them know
Yep.
what they might expect a little bit. And I found one writer who characterized the middle movement as a warm discussion between three old and dear friends. And I just thought, what a lovely characterization and so accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, everybody has a commentary, you know, and maybe um, at the beginning, of course, the piano takes the lead and the violin joins afterwards. But at the very end, the cello has a particularly poignant little moment, and it's just a very very special movement, I think, and it's the trio that I really do enjoy playing the most.
No, fantastic. And then we jump ahead a little under 60 years. Again, on Thursday night, you're going to be performing Schumann's fantastic Opus 47 piano quartet. What a difference between the Mozart and the Schumann. The Schumann has these big, thick chords, and you can hardly resist that great, fiery, fun finale. Uh, for you as a pianist, is this your favorite piece that you're going to be performing over the two nights? What can you tell
You
us about
know,
it?
it's funny. People ask me, you know, what's your favorite piece, or what's your favorite Beethoven trio, or something like that. Honestly, the only thing I can answer is it's my favorite one happens to be the one that I'm working on now. You know, I would play the Mozart or the Schumann piano quartet anytime. If anybody asked me, I'd drop everything and do it. It is. I think it was the first piano quartet I ever played.
Really?
So just out of student life, and I have very special memories associated with it. You know,
Mhm.
so I'd be happy to play that anytime, of course. And yeah, that's nothing. None of those pieces can really be your favorite. I think. You know.
I'm just again, I'm just thinking about that final movement. The piano writing is just so spectacular, and then you've got the three string instruments sort of interweaving between the piano. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, the strings always get the tune. We have more notes, but they always get the tune. And we've got three wonderful string players, and they love it when they get to play the tune.
I also remember talking to you a long time ago. It seems you were here in studio pre-COVID, and one of the things you were talking about was the fact that the Muriel Richardson Auditorium at the Art Gallery was being renovated. Have you had a chance to perform in the auditorium? And if so, what are the acoustics like? And what is the new renovations of the auditorium like?
Well, to be honest with you, I think most of the renovations, well, of course, the art gallery is very different from the outside. You know, there's the huge new construction on the corner. Um, Within the auditorium, the changes, I think, appear mainly to be cosmetic.
Mm.
You know, the acoustic is the same as it has been. It's very comfortable. I mean, particularly for these times where now I guess people are not, they're happy not to have to wear masks when they're listening to concerts. And of course, the seats at the art gallery are rather far apart from one another. You know, you're not sharing elbow rests with anybody, so
Yeah.
it's kind of the ideal place to play these days. And people, you know, are advised, I guess, to wear their masks into the building. That's the policy of the art gallery. But according to government regulations, it's you don't have to wear them all the time inside. And I think people will feel comfortable to take them off and listen to the concert again a little bit less overheated than one might be. Um, I was in the art gallery just this past November. We played a concert there, and everything seemed as usual. You know, so that
Mm.
was we were grateful for that.
So still the great venue.
Yeah.
Mhm. David, this has just been great. Where can people get tickets for tomorrow and Thursday night's concerts?
Well, if people are consulting our website, there is just a link to click if you're comfortable making e-transfers. We're not actually selling paper tickets, but we're taking people's names and putting them on a list, and they can check it when they sign in. There's also a telephone number where they can call and speak to someone who will take their visa information. And of course, if you bring a check or cash, that's also that's also gratefully accepted.
So will tickets be available at the door
Yes, for sure they will.
as well? And for our Classic 107 listeners, I'll embed a direct link to the Winnipeg Chamber Music Society's website where you can get tickets. David, the concerts tomorrow and Thursday night sound like they're going to be just fantastic. Once again, for our listeners, the concerts start at 7:30 and take place at the Muriel Richardson Auditorium. And it is so great that the Winnipeg Chamber Music Society is back on the concert stage. David, thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. This has just been great.
Thanks, Chris.